I was bracing myself for a live video of an orchestra performing, and it turns out that I may have been way off. Hey everybody, welcome to the Ultimate YouTube channel. It's your girl, Rosalie. This is so freaking powerful. Guess what time it is? Let's keep this short and simple, but I had to come on here. So often we're stuck in our own little world, but it's all so much bigger than we realize. Shout out today goes to Arthur for this suggestion. Thank you for your suggestion on buymeacoffee.com. This is Manchester Orchestra, Bedhead. Atlanta, Georgia. Wow. An American indie rock band from Atlanta, Georgia, formed in 2004. Is there... This is way... I gotta rewind. This is way different than what I expected. I was confident this was going to be a performance of an orchestra. I had no idea. Here, let's start over. The Million Masks of God, out now. Is that their album? It's a very interesting title. Also, Bedhead. Makes me think of usually someone waking up and having all messed up head from, sleeping and from their hair being wild. Let's find out what this is about. Bedhead, Manchester Orchestra. The rain and the thunder. That grandma wallpaper.
And talking heads, killing on your dead, blood on the bedhead and volumes you left unsaid. So let them talk and let it happen. Now I'm afraid you're alone. Oh my God, let me relinquish and start to distinguish my past. Supposed to end like this. You and I are panoramic. Now I'm afraid of the ghost. Oh my God, let me relinquish and start to distinguish my past and my time. There is only love and fire, so oh my God, let me extinguish the habit, the sequence, the loss in my mind. Now I believe in the crowd by the entrance you broke. Finally reality's taking its hold. You're not who you were, but you can't let it go. You're not where you're from, but you're always alone. So I stick a flag in the ground. I think I know who I'm living for now. I am what I am, saying above is the ground. It's not what I want, but I'm figuring it out.
Wow.
Oh my God,
I love that chorus.
Start to distinguish my past and my time. You and I are holy fire, so oh my God, let me extinguish the habit, the sequence, the loss in my mind. Now I believe in the
I would lose my crap.
go.
I don't think a movie about ghosts would have ever made me cry a little bit. This was freaking epic. I like this band. I'm subscribing. Manchester Orchestra. Okay, the composition of this was dope. I loved how I loved that hook, dung 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 dung, kept carrying and through the track like a red thread. The drums, the whole composition had a cool crescendo. The drums kicking in hard. The orchestral feeling that even their voices gave me was really cool. The musical composition, it was not lighthearted. No, it was more heavy on the dramatic, but it was intriguing. It was upbeat enough to keep me going, but it was intense enough to pull me into the meaningfulness of the lyrics and of this song. I love his voice. The vibe of it, this indie rock vibe, gave me feelings of a mix between Kings of Leon, Alt J, those kinds of bands. Love his voice. Love how they were playing together. The whole composition was dope even in and of itself. Even lyrics aside, if there was like a lyricless instrumental, this would be really fun because of the crescendo and the hype. It pulled me in. But the lyrics are what had me intrigued, and the whole music video was really well made. It was beautiful to see this little girl so aware of the supernatural and the possibility of there being something beyond the physical eye. Of course, we might say that from a scientific standpoint, that's projections of our mind in our grief, right? We're imagining things that we wish for. You wish something hard enough, you're going to start seeing it, if you will. Right? But then there's also various perspectives on that, on the possibility of it and whatnot. How do we process grief? And there's different ways to look at it from a supernatural, paranormal standpoint, from a scientific standpoint, from a religious standpoint. So many different opinions on the topic. But this little girl in her childlike innocence and with her, what is the word? Open-mindedness for the possible was inspiring. I think many of us, we admire the childlikeness of children, their innocence, their playfulness, because we often lose that into our adult life. The mom laying in bed, it seemed to me like she was grieving. It seemed to me like they had lost the father, her husband, and at one point her running upstairs with some guy. I'm assuming maybe her trying to date again or meet somebody else. It looked like a different man, I think. And the girl being carried up by her ghost father asleep made me sad because it made me feel like this disconnect between the child's experience and the mom. And that too is part of the human experience where everyone will grieve differently. A person who loses their spouse, who may or may not eventually try to date again or meet somebody, will be faced with guilt, with survivor's guilt, with shame of even considering opening their heart again to love, may experience judgment from the world outside. How could you? Right? We all have our opinions on how long or short somebody should take to grieve before they can date again. We have this disconnect also between how we grieve, right? We grieve differently. A child losing their father is going to have a very different experience and has a completely different relationship than a woman to her husband. And we all have that, right? You could have a couple who loses a child and they both will grieve. The husband and the wife will both grieve in very different ways. And that too brings conflict then, because the wife may feel like the husband didn't care, even though he's very much hurting, just may want to be strong for the woman, or vice versa. The woman, not knowing how to process her grief, may lash out at the husband, making him feel like it's his fault, etc., etc. We all grieve and hurt and live differently. And so even there, that duality between the mom running upstairs with what looked like a different man and the child in the ghost's arms, it created a stark contrast that almost had me feeling some type of way about the mom, because it made me wonder, hey, your child's asleep. Why are you not carrying it upstairs? Why is the ghost taking care of the baby and you're busy doing God knows what? So there was an element of me projecting certain feelings in that particular scene, and then feeling empathy as the mother's laying in bed, grieving, having a hard time, the child trying to get her up. Now mom is starting to see the ghost and is freaking out. And what to the child was comforting, because it's dad. He says, hello, this is not a scary ghost or a nightmare. This is her father appearing to her. She's seeing him in all things. She's remembering. For the mother, these paranormal transactions are terrifying. So she takes her daughter, and the daughter, as you saw yourself, is distraught because she doesn't want to lose her father, and then sees him again in the window. And it eases her pain, realizing he will always be with her. There too, a beautiful message that those we've lost are not just tied to the house we knew them in or to them places. that we experienced with them, but they can continue with us on our journey as we drive into the future because they will be in our hearts and minds. Different ways we could take that. But the lyrics are beautifully poetic and a beautiful storytelling that I think many can still relate to. Arguing with the dead. I'm not alone, but it sure feels like someone left. That's poignant. Instead of saying, I'm not alone, but it sure feels like someone's here. It says, I'm not alone, but it sure feels like someone left. Okay? So on one hand, I'm not alone, but at the same time, it feels like someone has left me. This grief has us feeling this conflict of, I feel like you might still be here. I want you to be here. I imagine you here, but I'm hurting. So clearly someone's left me. Clearly something's missing, and yet something's here. Deaf notes and talking heads carrying on your debt. Blood on the bedhead and volumes you left unsaid. Let him talk and let it have it. Now I'm afraid you're alone. Oh, now I'm afraid you're alone. Maybe speaking to the person that has passed, afraid for them where they might be. Oh my God, let me relinquish and start to distinguish my past and my time. You and I are oil and fire. Let me extinguish the habit, the sequence, the loss in my mind. Ah, wow. Talk about trying to deal with grief. Let me extinguish the sequence. That makes me think of these patterns we have in our mind, these sequences of how we go through grief. We always talk about the stages of grief in life, right? Well, not always, but many people do. We have this sequence of thought patterns of how we remember, how we process. And some of us may obsess and find ourselves going over that again and again and again. Let me extinguish that, the loss in my mind. Now I believe in the ghost. Crawling against your skin, clutching my neck, said, it's all supposed to end like this. You and I are panoramic. Now I'm afraid of the ghost. A panoramic view is often this perspective where you can capture everything from left to right? It's a much broader, much wider view. It's also this beautiful panorama view of everything that you can see. So I wonder if that plays into the fact here that this little girl was able to see a much broader vision, a much broader perspective. And I think many of us long for that. When it comes to death, we long to understand the big picture. But because we're not God, it's hard to grasp what it's like for the people that have left and where they might be, what it's like for us here, the perspective of the person next to us who may be going through something similar and yet has a completely different experience. Right by the entrance, you broke. Finally, reality's taking its hold. You're not who you were, but you can't let it go. You're not where you're from, but you're always alone. So I stick a flag in the ground. I think I know who I'm living for now and what I am. I stick a flag in the ground is usually, to me at least, this imagery of staking your claim. I'm staying here. This is what I'm going to do. I know who I'm living for now. Ooh, and that could be taken different ways. Is this the mother who has lost her husband, or any person losing someone, who is now saying, I'm going to live for my child. I'm going to put her in the car, because let's look at it through the perspective of the mother. We're seeing a lot of the ghost and the daughter, her remembering her father, her finding comfort in engaging with him in the afterlife, if you will. Maybe the father finding comfort because that way he can keep an eye on his family and he feels like he doesn't have to let go, him not wanting to perhaps release and step into death. But let's look at it from the perspective of the mother. The mother being freaked out by the paranormal may, from the outside looking in, be looked at as, oh my goodness, where's your faith, right? Why can't you see your dead husband? Why can't you, see things like your daughter does? But for her, it's loneliness and it's dark. Even the cinematography, it's depressing. Her in the bed alone, covered in the blanket. She looks like she has been crying when her daughter comes and jumps on the bed to take her to come with her. From the perspective of the mother, we may look and say, oh man, why can't you see the signs? But for her, she is in her grief. And now perhaps she's the one saying, I know who I'm living for now. She takes her daughter and drives into the future to get away from that house that's haunted with all the memories. There's this dance between life and death, between loss and love, where there's this desire to not want to let go of the person we've lost, but also needing to continue living for ourselves and those who have been left behind. It's a powerful song if you look at it, because it opens up this conversation of the ghosts of our life, the people that have literally passed on, the ghosts of our past, and the things of our dead dreams or dead experiences. The past is a ghost, if you will, because you can never get it back. It's this whisper that is a vague memory. But there's this need to, at some point, understand you're not who you were, but you can't let go. We hold on to things, to what we have, to what was, to who we loved. He was teasing around the town and cried, wolf, wolf. Interesting. You know how the story of the boy or girl who cried wolf? Everybody came to help, but there was no wolf. That's an interesting way to stop this. Let me extinguish the habit, the sequence, the loss in my mind. Now I believe in the ghost. He was teasing around the town and cried wolf. Everybody came to help, but there was no wolf. That part confuses me. What does that mean to end with that type of text? Because the story of the wolf is a person who keeps crying wolf. People come to help. There's no wolf. There's no danger. So when there is an actual threat and that person cries for help again, nobody shows up because they're done being fooled. But what does that mean in regards to a ghost? You and I are panoramic. I'm afraid of the ghost. And then in the end, it says, I believe in the ghost. We went from being afraid of something to believing in it. But when there's no wolf, it is like a ghost, right? When people come to see where the wolf is and they find that there is no such thing, how does that tie into the idea of death and loss and a person being a ghost? Talk to me in the comments. I'm intrigued about this. I like this song a lot. I like how they did the music video, the composition. Manchester Orchestra, you guys. Very different than what I expected. It exceeded my expectations. Hey, don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you on the next ride. Hey, yo!